In Greek mythology, Stheno is one of the monstrous Gorgon sisters. Stheno tends to be depicted as a thin Gorgon monster with red snakes curling around her head instead of hair. Of the three Gorgons, she was known to be the most independent and ferocious, having killed more men than both of her sisters combined. Stheno is a powerful Gorgon. Like all of her kind, she has the power to turn all who look at her to stone, though she is a bit different. While other Gorgons must keep their eyes on the target to petrify them, Stheno has to charge up her shot, but it immediately petrifies whoever she looks at and kills them instantly. In the most famous Greek myths, the Gorgons were three monsters. Their names were Stheno, meaning the mighty or strong, Euryale, meaning the far-springer, and Medusa, the queen or guardian. On their heads grew coiling and hissing snakes. Their teeth were giant boar tusks, their hands were made of bronze, and they had wings of gold. In many Greek myths, Medusa is described as being mortal, while her two sisters Stheno and Euryale are immortal and entirely indestructible. Stheno is the most powerful of all Gorgons. Like all of her kind, she has the power to turn all who look at her to stone, though she is a bit different. While other Gorgons must keep their eyes on the target to petrify them, Stheno has to charge up her shot, but it immediately petrifies whoever she looks at and kills them instantly. While she's nowhere near as famous as her sister Medusa, Stheno is an interesting character in her own right. Here's why she deserves more recognition. In her original depiction in Greek mythology, she was born a Gorgon, along with her sisters, but later authors say that she and her sisters were transformed into Gorgons by the goddess Athena after Medusa was raped by the sea god Poseidon in the temple of Athena. She and her sisters lived on a set of islands called the Gorgons, which was near the edge of the world, where the Titan Atlas carried the sky. Occasionally, mortals would come to the island to try and slay Medusa, but were either petrified by Gorgon or were killed by Stheno and Euryale. Eventually, Medusa was slain by the demigod Perseus, who had made it to the Gorgons Islands and snuck in while they were sleeping using the winged sandals of Hermes and Hades' helm of invisibility. Upon seeing that their younger sister was slain, Stheno screamed in anguish and attempted to murder Perseus, only for him to escape. What became of Stheno and Euryale afterwards is unknown. Stheno, Medusa, and Euryale were three Gorgons, whose parents were Phorcys and Ceto. Depending on the writer of the myth, Stheno lived in the Western Ocean, on the island of SistersStheno, or in the underworld. There isn't a lot of information about Stheno, but as she was a Gorgon, we can assume that the descriptions of the Gorgons in general fit her too. According to some accounts, Stheno was born a hideous monster. However, in other accounts, she was a beautiful woman turned into a Gorgon by Athena for trying to save her sister Medusa from getting raped by Poseidon, god of the seas. As the story goes, Medusa was a beautiful woman who attracted the eye of mortals and gods alike. She was coveted by Poseidon, who wanted to sleep with her. Medusa sought shelter from Poseidon in Athena's temple, but Poseidon chased her and had his way with her. On discovering this, Athena was angry and punished Medusa by turning her into a monster, along with her sisters who had tried to stand with Medusa. When Perseus came to cut off Medusa's head, Stheno and Euryale were unable to save their sister because Perseus was wearing Hades' cap, which rendered him invisible. Stheno, like her sisters, is described as a thin Gorgon monster with red venomous snakes for hair. In earlier accounts of Stheno's appearance, she's described as having brass hands, claws, a long tongue, tusks, fangs, and a scaly head. Unlike Medusa, Stheno was immortal. She was also the most independent, the deadliest and most vicious of the three sisters, and is said to have killed more people than both her sisters combined. Her name means strong, and she lived up to it. Some accounts state that, like Medusa, she could also turn people to stone with her stare. There is some contention that the image of Stheno was inspired by the cuttlefish, which known for its strength, while Medusa was inspired by the octopus, characterized by its intelligence, and Euryale was based on the squid, known for its ability to jump out of the water. This could be possible, as the Greeks based many of their myths on real-world phenomenon, but there's no evidence to confirm this. As we've already mentioned, Stheno was a powerful Gorgon, often said to be the strongest. Here are some of her attributes and symbols. Many of these are powers of the Gorgons, which would apply to Stheno as well. The most famous power of the Gorgons is their ability to turn anyone who looked directly into their eyes to stone. This ability is most famously associated with Medusa, but traditionally all the Gorgons had this power. Unlike Medusa, who was mortal, both Stheno and Euryale were immortal. This means that they could not be killed by conventional means. One of the most recognizable symbols of the Gorgons is their hair made of living venomous snakes. This symbol is not just a mark of their monstrous nature, but it also suggests danger. While the specific powers of Stheno are not often mentioned, she's sometimes described as the most fierce, strong, and deadly among the Gorgon sisters. While not a power per se, the image of the Gorgon, often based on Medusa but by extension representative of all Gorgons, was used as a protective symbol in ancient Greece. It was thought to ward off evil. It would be hung on places like doors and entrances to ward off evil. While not as famous as her sister Medusa, Stheno is a powerful and independent female character in Greek mythology. Whether there was more to her story, which got lost with time, or whether the writers of the myths simply relegated her to a minor character, she remains an interesting personality and a part of the horrible trio of sisters.